Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge. Also welcome to my first Thursday video. We're doing Mondays and Thursdays for the next few months. If you want to know more about that, you can click the card up here and check out my life update and channel video that I'll be having videos 2 days a week for a little bit of the foreseeable future for now. But today we're doing my favorite video of every month, and that is my wrap up, talking about what I got through in July. So this is on the end of one of my lower months, and that's because I DNF'd 3 books. So we're gonna get into this. I have my stats right here. I DNF'd 3 books and I read a total of 8 books. I had 2 3 stars, 4 4 stars, 1 4.5 star, and 1 5 star. So it was a pretty decent month, again on the lower end, which I suspected. That's why I did such a crazy large TBR where I just put everything that I was thinking about reading on it. It was a very busy month. August is also going to be a very busy month. My summers are just bananas because here in the Midwest you enjoy summer while you can. And yeah, so a lot of stuff kind of got in the way for me, but a few of the things I read I really enjoyed, and a few of them obviously, like, I rarely DNF just because I read things that I want to read. So even if it's a little bit of a lower rating, I still usually enjoy it and I don't have to DNF. But we'll get into it because we're going to dive into those right away. So I DNF'd 3 things. The first one was the Starlight Claim. This was a book from NetGalley. I will put up, I forgot the author's name. I stupidly didn't write it in my notes, so I'll put up a picture of it. This was supposed to be kind of a survivalist story about this family living in the woods, and then it turns into kind of like people being like trapped in a cabin while there's like dangerous people coming for them, or like whatever. It wasn't clear to me whether this was post-apocalyptic or not, and it was also a little bit too like another book that I read and didn't like, which I'll get to because it's coming up in a book that I read. Anyway, I just didn't connect with it. The main character, he was really annoying to me, and so I got 20% in and I DNF'd. 20% is what I give arcs on NetGalley. Sometimes I even go a little further because if it's someone's first novel or it is just a little outside my comfort zone, I want to give it a fair shake. But I just was not connecting with the Starlight Claim, and so that got DNF'd. Then the next 2 that I DNF'd really recently because I kept them on for so long. The first one is The Soul of the Sword, which this isn't a DNF forever. It's just I'm not in the mood, and I've been 50% done with this book for 4 months now because I first got it as an arc. And I really want to read it, but I'm not in the mood for this type of story, and so I'm not going to do it justice by pushing myself through. So we're DNFing it. I hope in the fall I'll feel more in the mood, or closer to when the 3rd book comes out, that I'll be ready for it. But I like Julie Kagawa. I've had good feelings about everything of hers I've read. I previously have read her Iron Face series and the Dragon series that she did. And I really enjoyed those. And I really enjoyed Shadow of the Fox. It was the first arc I ever got. And I really enjoyed it, but I'm just not in the mood. So this one, it's not a harsh DNF and it's not a DNF forever, but I'm not enjoying it, and so we're cutting it. The last DNF and the most painful and frustrating DNF for me was The Blinding Knife by Brent Weeks. I made it to page 125, and then I checked in with Murphy because Murphy is reading and annotating this book for me as a Patreon of hers, and I really loved the Black Prism. I really enjoyed it. The sexism in it didn't bother me. I thought some of it was played for humor, and it wasn't horrible. Like, some things you shouldn't make jokes about, but some of it I was just like, oh, this is just a poor taste joke, and I like it. And so the situations that had bothered other people didn't bother me so much. Well, in this one, and Murphy has assured me that it gets much worse, was just too much for me. Like, I couldn't handle it anymore. Sorry, we just changed angle. My light's not working, so I need to take more advantage of the natural light here. Apologies. And also I was bored. Like, the thing about the first one is I was really interested in everything that was happening. So whenever there was a slip up or something that annoyed me, I could just, you know, move along. Like, I really liked it. And this time, nothing has really happened so far. And Murphy said nothing did really happen until like 300 pages in. And I just don't care. So I'm actually going to wait till I get the annotated copy from her, and then maybe I'll skim finish it. But she's reached some really frustrating parts, and the cool magic just isn't enough to keep me into it. There are other books I can read for cool magic instead of reading 650 pages about shitty stuff. So moving along from that. All right, now to my 2 3 stars. So the first 3-star, and this is the one that I was saying the Starlight Claim reminded me of. I read The Wolves of Winter by Terrell Johnson. So this is sold as a post-apocalyptic survival story in the North. And so this family, there is 6 of them. There is Lynn, her mother, her uncle's adopted son, so not really her cousin, and yeah, so it's them. And then this one guy comes through town, him and his dog, and he's really injured, and so her family is kind of nursing him back to health, and her and him form a bond with each other. And then there were some sci-fi elements that just felt really off, because we started as kind of just a survivalist story in the North, and there was a disease that had wiped out most of the people. And then it went a little bit like a Contagion story. And I don't know. It's just, for such a short book, it was trying to be too many things. And then it had this cliffhanger, and it's not sure whether there's a second one or not. Like, I think you're just meant to, you know, kind of like dream about what the end will be. And I don't like that, for how vague the end of this is. Like, it has an epilogue and everything that skips ahead quite a bit, and I think you're supposed to assume that it's like over. So I don't know. This is his first book. The writing was really good. I enjoyed it. It's just what was happening in the story. But yeah, this was only a 300-page read. I read it pretty much in one sitting. And it wasn't bad. It was just, there was so much in the concept that this could have been a trilogy, and been a good one, and been a series that should be a trilogy. So I don't know if he will do that. This is his first book, and I haven't been able to find any evidence that there'll be more to this series yet. But yeah, and also Lynn, she's pretty capable. You know, she's a survivalist with her family, and yeah, and it makes sense that she attaches herself to this stranger right away, because he's the only, you know, eligible person for her to have romantic feelings for, because the adopted cousin, he's a few years younger than her, and so he really would be the only person she could be with. But so it's written that she's like 22, I think. She's not written as 22. She's written almost as a very young teen, just how she thinks and how she acts. So this could have been marketed YA, and I feel like I would have given it more of a break because of the situations. Well, I'm talking too much about my low scored book, but anyway, this was 3 stars. The next book that was 3 stars was actually kind of a quick story. It's called Aphrodite Made Me Do It by Trista Mathers. This is a little book about feminism and love. There are some trigger warnings for rape, sexual abuse, self-harm thoughts, things like that. I think it could be really powerful to the right person. I just wasn't the right person for that. And I picked it up because I've recently read a book about Aphrodite and love, which was Lovely War, which I adored. So I was kind of looking for something like that, and I saw the arc for this, and I thought it'd be cool. But it was a little bit of poetry, and pictures and art, and I just didn't vibe with it. But I think it had some legitimate things to say. So if you're looking for kind of a discussion on feminism and that kind of like culture, this may be a good read for you. All right, moving into my 4 stars, of which I have 4. But one of them I'm going to save because I had a sequel to it. which I know sounds weird, but you'll get it. So I read Deviate this month. This book just came out at the end of June. This is by J. Kristoff. This is the second book in the Lifelike series. And it was okay. It's a 4-star for me because some parts of it were really exciting. We really got to develop a few of our characters, but other characters, I didn't get enough of them. I'm trying to be vague because this is the second book in a series, but this book has lots of different versions of artificial intelligence. It has androids. It has, robots who do what you say, robots who, follow the laws of robotics. And then there's these lifelikes, which were created, and they look just like humans, but they're still robots, and they're abomination. They're not supposed to exist, and some of them do. The series is also roughly based on the story of Anastasia and the Romanov family, as well as a bit of Mad Max going on. The twists were kind of easy to call in this one, whereas in the first book, I was completely floored by the main twist of the story. And in this one, I kind of called it like right away. But Lemon Fresh is still amazing. I really enjoyed Ezekiel and another character get paired up in this one. Not romantically, more just like situationally. And I really liked that. And I really liked what was happening with Cricket, who is a robot in here as well. I really enjoy artificial intelligence. I really enjoy how Jay writes artificial intelligence. But yeah, of course, it's really set up for what the third book is going to be. So this one definitely had middle book syndrome for me. All right, next I listened to The Kingdom on audiobook by Jess Rothenberg. If you haven't heard by now, this is a story set in a place that is kind of like Disneyland. It also has these robots called fantasists who are artificial princesses who will do whatever you ask them to do. This book, my biggest problem with it, because the setting was interesting, the story they're trying to tell is amazing, but I didn't connect with Anna and her love interest. I didn't connect with them. So if you don't know, Anna, this artificial intelligence fantasist, she is on trial for murdering a worker at the park who she supposedly is in love with, and she murdered him, and she's on trial. And it's controversial because she is artificial intelligence, so they don't believe that she can be held responsible for murder because she's not really a person and she doesn't have humanity. And so how could she be blamed for this? Shouldn't the park be blamed for it, for not watching her better and controlling her better? This has trigger warnings for assault and yeah, it's more alluded to than straight on shown. So I can't speak to what triggers people. I'm just saying that the things that could be triggering here, they're very mild in my opinion. There's no like on screen of those events. It's all inferred. And that was kind of actually the biggest part for me, is that all these tragic things are supposedly happening, or you infer that they're happening. And I was like, well, is it just inferred that this is happening, or is it really happening? Are these humans really manipulating these AI that way? Are they really using them for their own whims in the way that we think they are? Are we just supposed to think that? And yeah, I didn't feel for Anna. So the thing she's going through, I was like, oh, that sucks. But I wasn't connected to her. It didn't hurt me, the things that were happening. I was just kind of like, oh, this is a cool story, and I'm supposed to think, what does humanity really mean? Is this AI more human than we are? And I've just read stories that did it better. But that being said, I think it is a pretty powerful story, and if it was someone maybe not as cynical as I, they could think this book is friggin' amazing. Because it is a lot like Westworld meets Disney World meets stuff like that. So 4 stars for me. Next, I just finished To Sir Philip with Love by Julia Quinn. This is the 5th book in the Bridgerton series, which is coming to Netflix soon. So I'm really glad I'm rereading these books. This is about Eloise, who is the 5th Bridgerton, as you can see by her name starting with an E. And at the same time as Penelope and Colin are getting together in the last book, Eloise has been writing back and forth to her cousin's widow. So her cousin, her name was Mariana, or maybe I just made that up. I don't remember her name. I think it was, Marina. And Marina has just recently died, and Eloise wrote a letter to her widowed husband, expressing her condolences, and they end up having a correspondence for about a year with her. And the inciting incident of this that happens in the end of the last book, and we don't know where Eloise disappeared, when her best friend is marrying her brother, he asked her to marry him and be his wife, and she leaves to go and meet him and stay with him without anyone knowing. Unbeknownst to her, she arrives, and Sir Philip has 2 children. He has a twin boy and girl, and he's really looking for a mother for his children, and he never told Eloise that he had children. And that's enough. It's romance. That's the setup. This isn't my favorite, but it's still so charming. Like, it took a little while longer to get into this one because Philip is dealing with a lot of grief and a lot of guilt, and guilt that he doesn't feel bad that his wife died, and guilt that he doesn't know his children as well as he should. He's very socially awkward. He doesn't know how involved he should be with his kids, or if he should let servants do it. There's just so many emotions that you're like not expecting from this. But one of my favorite romance tropes is men who have children, and they either need like a governess or a wife or a caretaker for their kids, and they fall in love with that person. And so I really like that about this one. The kids are, troublemakers and are won over by her, and it's just really great. This is a great, great one, and it actually, it teared me up a lot because Eloise reminds me of myself so much. She's 28 in this book. She's considered a spinster. She is really outspoken, and everyone talks about how much she talks, but there's some really great things in here. There's some really touching moments between her and her oldest brother, Anthony, who has basically been a father to her, and he's really harsh with her, but very loving. When she's run away from home, and she's like, well, I don't know if I want to marry this guy, that's why I came here. And her brother's like, it's too late for that, Eloise. You didn't think this through. If you didn't want to be forced into a wedding, you shouldn't have left. And he's just very honest with her in a kind but flabbergasted parent way. And then her mother, which I love Violet. Anytime there's a scene with Violet and one of her kids, it's just so great. I love that about these romance novels, how she makes us feel. And I just love that so much. So this was a 4-star just because it's a slow beginning. But I really love Eloise, so I'm into it. Next, I'll talk about my 4.5 star real quick because my 4-star and 5-star left, they are in the same series. Then I read a NetGalley e-arc that I really loved, and that is called Red Rider by Kate Avery Ellison, and I gave this 4.5 stars. This book was sadly only 189 pages. It is a post-apocalyptic story where it's a little like True Blood in that there was this mystical creatures who'd been hidden until the end of the world, and then they came out. And that is, in this case, they're called alphas, I think. But they're werewolves, basically. And they had been the subhuman, but now that they're out, they are kind of the ruling class. And there are these only certain women who can breed more of their kind for them. So this book was marketed as a post-apocalyptic Handmaid's Tale meets a fighting story, meets Red Riding Hood. And so our main character, Red, she was identified as one of these women who can be a breeder for them. I hate using that word, but that's the word used in the book. And I was really nervous reading this because I thought it was going to be a smut novel, which, you know me, I'm not afraid to read that. But it just seems so interesting that I was hesitant because I was like, well, if this is a smut novel, the concept probably won't be carried out good. You know what I mean? A lot of smut novels, maybe they have a good concept, but then they're just people having sex the whole time and there's not story to it. Well, there is actually no smut in this book. Not in this one anyway. I don't know if future ones will. But anyway, so you get identified as as a breeder when you're young. They test every girl, they test their blood to see if they are. And if they are, when they're 18, they have to go turn themselves over to the government to be assigned a mate so that they can make them more wolf babies. Well, Red Ryder, her grandmother has been hiding her from this, and she has hidden the fact that she's a breeder, and so she's actually 19 and she's been hiding this for a year. Her parents and her best friend / like love interest were killed when she was 12, and so she wants to be part of the resistance to take down, you know, this hierarchy of these werewolves. And then we meet her counterpart, which I wish I had it written down. I don't know his name, but he is like second to the highest alpha in the land. And she gets in an altercation with him, and then it gets revealed that she's one of these women who needs to be brought back. And so pretty early on in the book, she is going to get taken back. And the secret society she was a part of, who was trying to take down the society, when they find out that she's one of these breeders, they want to kill her because they don't want these people to get new breeders. Anyway, I know I'm explaining this a lot, but the second book was supposed to have come out in May, and it's not out yet. So this actually wasn't an e-arc. I just bought it off of Amazon. So I think I said this was an e-arc. Nope, I bought this one off of Amazon. The second one was supposed to come out in May, and it's not out yet. And the cliffhanger to this book was amazing. She ends up getting stranded with this werewolf when they get attacked, because there's also these tree monsters that they like raise dead bodies from the dead and then like use them to attack. It's complicated, you know, it's one of those things. It's complicated, but I loved this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's really great. It was a fast read. I finished it in one day, and then I was like, oh no, I need more. It was great. I loved it. I know that was a weird explanation, but it was post-apocalyptic, little like Handmaid's Tale, and then Red Riding Hood, and it was great. So there we go. All right, now my last two books, which are in a series together. One of these was picked by my viewers to read for me in July, and then I read the sequel right away, and that is Scythe and Thunderhead. I gave Scythe 5 stars, and I gave Thunderhead 4 stars. Scythe was amazing. I knew that it would be good. This was one of those books that I put off because I didn't know when the third one was coming out, and I saw everyone raving about it, and I just kind of hunkered down and waited till it blew over. But you guys picked for me to read this book. I read it via audio, except the last like 20 pages. And then this book I half listened on audio, and then I finished reading it because I just wanted to know what happened. So this book, again, probably one you've heard a crap ton about, but this is in a futuristic society where people don't die anymore. We've cured disease, we've cured old age, we've cured all these things. So the only way you die is if you get reaped by a scythe. Okay? And these two young people, Citra and Rowan, they get chosen as a scythe apprentice, Scythe Faraday, and he's teaching them his ways for a year. And then one of them will become the scythe at the end of that year, and the other one has to go back to their life. In the society, scythes are ostracized because, you know, no one wants to get killed by them, but they are also honored because you're afraid of them. And so there's some people who they realize that this job is awful and it still kills them that they have to kill people, but they know that they need to keep the population under control. And then there's those who think that they should enjoy their work and kill for pleasure. And it's who will Citra and Rowan end up being because of this. So this first book was amazing. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I loved Citra and Rowan. However, I totally agree. I didn't think I would, but every person I've read has said the romance was unnecessary in this book. And it's the first time I've ever agreed because I love romance. Y'all know this. I got all my romance recommendation books. I absolutely love romance in any kind of book. But I wanted them to be friends. There's a situation that comes up in these books, and you're supposed to believe that it's because they're in love that this thing happens. But to me, it would have been an even stronger story if their friendship was so powerful that this thing happened, because I think friendships between men and women are just as possible, and that would have been so much more powerful to me. And then I read Thunderhead, and I can't say much about this one at all because it's a sequel. But so I'll tell you what the Thunderhead is, because you hear about the Thunderhead inside. The Thunderhead is the AI that used to be the Cloud, which is cool because I work in technology, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is funny. And it evolved into this sentient AI that knows all and wishes only for the good of humanity and for the good of Earth. And the Scythes are not allowed to speak to the Thunderhead. So everybody else, you're connected to the Thunderhead through, you know, any kind of internet, anything that's going on. And he will guide you and help you and give you everything you need. And it's this cool, it's basically like a God-like relationship, like what it was like in the Garden of Eden when you could talk and walk with God all the time. Now, there are two ways that you become cut off from the Thunderhead. If you're a Scythe, the Scythes are not allowed in the Thunderhead because he doesn't want them to have access to everything they have. Like, they're supposed to operate independently so that the Thunderhead doesn't use its power to control people. Like, it's trying to stay apart. Second, you can become an unsavory, which means that you've committed crimes or you like to commit crimes. And so you get marked unsavory until, you know, you've paid reparations or you've done, you know, some good works or you've paid off a debt. And then you can get in contact with the Thunderhead again. And so it's very interesting. So that's all I'll say. That's what the Thunderhead is. How it plays into this story and what it's doing, I don't want to tell you. But I liked it. There was just some slow parts in this one, and I was really frustrated by a couple of plot points. So that's why I gave it a 4. But I still totally loved it. I ate it up. And it's probably more of a 4.5, but I'll stick with the 4. And the third one, The Toll, comes out in November, and I cannot wait for it. Like, I am starving for it to happen. So this one was a long one again. These are all the books that I read in July. I'm still proud of myself. It was hard to get through some of these books, so I'm really proud of myself. Yeah, I make new videos on Mondays and Thursdays, and you can see some more of those videos right now. Bye!